All right, guys, we're going to rock and roll here. Monday edition of the I Love CVille show. Monday edition of the I Love CVille show. A lot to cover on the program. Like and share the show if you can do us that favor. You got group live, J-Dubs? We're live on YouTube and Twitter.
Not yet.
All right, let me know when group is up and running. Do us a favor of hammering that like button, subscribing to our YouTube channel, and liking the I Love CVille show. We work hard for you. There's nothing we ask in return, except for you liking and sharing the show and spreading the gospel. If you can put, once you get it live, put the word "the" in headline 1, because it's a proper noun. But do that after you get the group live if you can do me that favor. A lot I'm going to cover on the program today. Jeff Gaffney's launching a new show. That show airs Monday, J-Dubs.
Yep.
Talk about that today. It says the event for the I Love CVille show on the group was deleted. Are you getting that up and running?
Yep.
All right. We're going to talk about the 50-year anniversary of the mall up and coming. I would talk about Alakazam closing. That was devastating. Alakazam, just a wonderful store in downtown Charlottesville. A wonderful store, Alakazam. And they announced over the weekend that they were closing their doors. One of the hardest things the owners has ever done. Ginny Hu, you're the best. Thank you for the retweet. Ginny Hu, what'd you think of the closing of Alakazam? Curious of your take on that, Ginny.
There's still time to get deals.
John Blair, thank you for liking the show. What'd you think of the closing of Alakazam? Here's a better question. Does the closing of Alakazam suggest something about the mall?
That's a tough question.
Does the closing of Alakazam suggest something about the mall and the willingness of parents with young children to patronize and visit the mall? That's what I want to talk about on the program today. We'll talk livable CVille up to their old tricks again on Nextdoor. We'll have that conversation today as it applies to a very important intersection in downtown Charlottesville. Are we live on the group there, J-Dubs?
Just about.
Okay. A lot of real estate continues to be for sale, including the Guadalajara and Atlas Coffee space. That has a lot of upside. This is the water cooler conversation for Charlottesville and Central Virginia. It's the I Love CVille show, and I don't think there's any place where you're going to get more localized content than what we do here. There's no platform in Central Virginia that has, across all platforms, more followers than the I Love CVille network, and that's just a fact. I think we can rock and roll, Judah Wickhauer, when you're ready. If the group is, in fact, live, it is. Which headline most intrigues you and why, Judah?
That's a good question. I mean, I think the Alakazam story is going to give us some good discussion.
Yeah. We'll talk about that. All right, so you're saying the group's ready to go?
Just about.
All right, we're ready to rock and roll here at the 12:36 marker.
All right. Quiet on the set.
Good Monday afternoon, guys. I'm Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us on the I Love CVille show. It's great to connect with you guys through the I Love CVille network on a beautiful Monday in downtown Charlottesville. Had the pleasure today of touring some real estate in downtown Charlottesville, and had the pleasure today of just kind of feeling the pulse of the most important 8 blocks in this 300,000 person region we call Central Virginia and the greater Charlottesville metropolitan area. The 50-year anniversary of the Charlottesville Downtown Mall next year. Milestone to say the least. 50 years for the Charlottesville Downtown Mall. The Charlottesville City Council and Charlottesville City Hall have tremendous responsibility and quite a bit on their plate as we approach a milestone anniversary. There's 4 months and change left in this calendar year. And in these final 4 months, City Hall and City Council are going to try to cram as much into their agenda, as much on the dais, as much in public comment portion, as much in action, as much in policy as possible to make this anniversary one to remember. I'm going to ask you, the viewer and listener, to this question as we approach the 50-year anniversary of East Main Street's conversion into a pedestrian mall, a mall designed by landscape architect Lawrence Halprin in 1976. We're going to talk history of these most important 8 blocks. We're going to put in perspective the closing of Alakazam over the weekend, a toy store that was institutional. I think we can add this to the list of I Love CVille icons that have closed in the last 12 months. Alakazam, would you agree with me as an icon locally?
Definitely.
Would you agree with me, viewers and listeners, that Alakazam is institutional in the same category as a Blue Moon Diner, a Moose's by the Creek, an Eldro's Traditional Clothes, a Reed's Grocery Store, a Guadalajara on Fontaine, a Mel's Cafe, a Lumpkins, a Little John's, a 10,000 Villages, an End Zone Pizza, a Belmont Pizza, a Tubby's Restaurant that have all closed in the Charlottesville area in the last 12 months? Would you agree that Alakazam should be on that list? What does the closing of this iconic and institutional toy store suggest or influence City Council and City Hall of what they need to do in the next 4 months to make these most important 8 blocks of the region even better as they approach the 50-year anniversary? Does the closing of this toy store suggest something about shopping patterns in Charlottesville where parents of young children, just like me and my wife, are hesitant to potentially bring their sons and daughters to shop at a toy store where they can see, feel, touch, play, and enjoy with toys prior to purchase? We'll talk about that today. We'll talk on today's show, goodness gracious, a household name, Judge Worrell, a man who is teeter-tottering with a gavel in his hand, teeter-tottering with a, what do you call the judge jacket on his hand? The robe, the judge robe draped over his shoulders, teeter-tottering from his perch atop a local courtroom, now saying a new zoning ordinance law suit can move forward. Judah Wickhauer, goodness gracious, can the man make his mind up?
Is it a new lawsuit?
Same one. Saying deadline. You know what? Let's let him move forward, despite this misfiling deadline. We'll talk about that today. We'll talk Livable Charlottesville doing their best to try to influence and, goodness gracious, infiltrate Charlottesville taxpayers with their message. Livable Charlottesville now wants a say in what to do with a downtown intersection, and they're using organization, they're using strategy and mobilization to try to get what they want. Are we live on the group?
Let's see.
We'll talk about that on today's program. A lot we're going to cover on the show. Did you see over the weekend that the Stanford Cardinal football team? This is UVA's opponent on September 20th in Charlottesville. Stanford Cardinal lost its season opener to Hawaii, 23-20, on a walk-off field goal. Hawaii was down 10-0 to start the game, and still Hawaii found a way to beat the Cardinal. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Virginia football and Tony Elliott has a very good opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, this calendar year, this football season, to start the year off undefeated with a monumental matchup in Scott Stadium against the Florida State Seminoles. The season opens this Saturday with the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers hitting Scott Stadium for a 6 o'clock kickoff on the ACC network. Then you travel to Raleigh to face the Wolfpack at high noon. In week 2, you got the William and Mary Tribe. In week 3, you got the Stanford Cardinal, who just blew a 10-point lead in week 4. Could Tony Elliott's team start the season 4-0 going into a matchup against the Seminoles on the last Friday night in September, a 7 o'clock ESPN nationally televised ball game? And goodness gracious, what would that do for Charlottesville, Albemarle County, Central Virginia, and our local economy? A 4-0 football team with Florida State coming in for a Friday night ESPN televised broadcast. Goodness gracious, that would have an impact. A lot we're going to cover on the program. Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, the Vermillions are 5 generations, Judah, in Albemarle County. John Vermillion and his family are 5 generations strong in Albemarle County. Their business, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, is 3 generations strong. John and his son, Andrew, on High Street, run an honest, straightforward, communicative, education-based business called Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. If you want your swimming pool looking like the Miller swimming pool, crystal clear blue, or the house smelling as beautiful and as well any house could smell, despite a German Shepherd and 2 maniacs under 7 years old, 7 and under, it's Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, ladies and gentlemen. Love the Vermillion family. Ginny Who has got this comment, her photo on screen about Alakazam closing the doors. I'll read the statement from the owner in a matter of moments. She says, I haven't been to Alakazam in years since a homeless man outside yelled at me for offering him the pizza I had just purchased rather than cash. Thank goodness my parents have the kids inside the store shopping, but we have not been back since. Wow. Bill McChesney, Logan Wells Claylow. John Blair, your thoughts on this? Over the weekend, the owner of Alakazam, that lower third on screen, offered this statement. Dear friends, it's with a mix of gratitude and bittersweet emotion that I share some news. After many wonderful years, our time at Alakazam Toys is coming to a close. We've loved being a part of this community and sharing in so many moments of joy, curiosity, and play. In a world that can often feel challenging, I've always believed in the power of small moments that spark wonder, laughter, and connection. That kind of joy is healing. It's the medicine we all need in dark times. I can honestly say that my time owning Alakazam has been one of the hardest and very best things I have ever done to celebrate everything we've built together. Our closing sale begins today. This is a chance to find your favorite toys, games, and treasures at special prices while supplies last. We hope these items continue to bring delight and inspire little moments of joy in your homes. Thank you for welcoming us into your lives, for your support, and for being a part of this journey. We will always cherish the moments we made together. With high fives and heartfelt gratitude, Ellen and the Alakazam team. Judah Wickhauer on a 2-shot, a trusted voice in this community we call Central Virginia. I saw the closing announcement over the weekend and was flooded with emotions. Mm-hmm. Our oldest son is in 2nd grade. He's 7. Our youngest son is almost 3. We have enjoyed more memories than I can count in this toy store. Touching and feeling and playing and laughing, sometimes crying because they can't buy everything they want. A respite and a refuge from the downtown mall during times of rain, cold, heat. At times when a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old need to get an air condition. When they come to visit Dad on the downtown mall, Alakazam is one of the things they mention.
Mm-hmm.
To say this is institutional and iconic is an understatement.
No doubt.
To add them to a list on I Love CVille, and you can find this online, ilovecville.com/closed. That is now 13 icons closed in the last 12 months. Saddens me.
Yeah.
I can relate to Ellen, the owner, saying this. I can honestly say that my time owning the store has been one of the hardest and very best things I've ever done. Owning a business is the best, hardest thing you will ever do. The longest, shortest thing you will ever do. Owning a business is akin in a lot of ways to parenthood. A business needs to be fed just like our children. A business needs to be nurtured just like our children. A business has highs that are undescribable and lows that feel like you are at a point of depression and downtroddenness that you never want to experience ever again. To close your doors and to make that announcement on social media, and an announcement that went viral, I can assure you is one of the most challenging things the proprietor ever had to do.
Yeah. No doubt.
Now I have to ask you a straightforward question. Respond and react to the closing announcement, and does the closing of Alakazam, is it an indication of some of the challenges and headwinds we currently face on the downtown mall?
Yeah, I think it definitely is a an indication of challenges faced by businesses, both in the downtown mall and around Charlottesville in general. I think it's also it also may just be a fact of this being a business that's been around for a long time. Businesses do choose to shutter their doors. Obviously, there are extraneous circumstances that involve, I'm sure the tariffs are not helping any businesses, particularly a toy store, where not all of the toys are produced in the United States. It's just a fact of production these days. And as you mentioned, and as Ginny mentioned, there are challenges ongoing on the downtown mall, considering some of the people on the downtown mall, some of the issues with panhandlers, issues with people using the alleys between some of the blocks as bathrooms. Certainly, I can understand a reticence in parents bringing their children to the downtown mall. Not everybody feels the same way, but you can't discount a parent's protective nature towards their children.
Ladies and gentlemen, we live in an era where selling a commodity on a shelf is as difficult as it's ever been, maybe since the Great Depression. I make that statement, and I don't want you to think it's hyperbolic in any capacity. I'll say it again. We live in an era where selling a commodity on a shelf may be as challenging as it's ever been since perhaps the Great Depression. For obvious reasons, Amazon, digital, Walmart, Target, you name it. Compounding those challenges, macro headwinds tied to tariffs, of course. Compounding those challenges, micro headwinds tied to inaction from local government. I, along with my wonderful wife, who is the rock of our family, have two maniac children, a 7-year-old and a soon-to-be 3-year-old. And if it was not for the fact that their father owns real estate and operates a business in downtown Charlottesville, my wife would be reluctant for our boys to come to these 8 blocks. Do I feel safe? Absolutely. Does Judah Wickhauer feel safe? Of course. Would my wife feel safe if she and I were walking up and down the mall on date night or post-date night for some cocktails or enjoying a concert at the Jefferson or at the Tink Pavilion? Yes, she would. Would my wife patronize the downtown mall by herself? No, she would not. This past weekend, one of her oldest friends visited downtown Charlottesville for a wedding at Pippin Hill. They stayed at the Omni. She, my wife's, one of her oldest friends, remembers visiting Charlottesville in 2017 when my wife and I got married. They stayed in 2017 at the same hotel. And in 2017, one of my wife's oldest friends, she remembered a downtown that was full of life, vibrancy, and economic vitality. This past weekend, she saw a downtown mall that included 4 lease signs, an overwhelming number of houseless individuals, and a mall that lacked the chutzpah and the heart and pulse that it had prior to COVID. Alakazam's closing is as much about selling a commodity in a digital age as it is a lack of action, a lack of stewardship of these most important 8 blocks by City Hall and City Council. City Hall and City Council, past and present, are culpable and accountable for Alakazam's closing. You cannot sell bouncy boys and trains. You cannot sell puzzles. You cannot sell toys when you don't feel safe bringing your kids downtown. That's going to impact your population, your customer base. And the interesting thing is, we are now 4 months removed from the 50-year anniversary of the pedestrian mall. In 1976, East Main Street was converted into a pedestrian mall designed by landscape architect Lawrence Halprin. In 2007, Charlottesville planned a comprehensive rehabilitation and renovation of the downtown mall. Construction on the mall renovation began on Sunday, January 7, 2009, and was completed later that summer. In 2017, a terrorist rammed his Dodge Charger deliberately into a peaceful protesting crowd, leading to the death of Heather Heyer. Portions of the mall and adjacent streets were listed and have been listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The downtown mall is one of the longest pedestrian malls, not in the Commonwealth, not on the East Coast, but the entire United States of America. It runs from 6th Street Northeast to Old Preston Avenue, where it extends to Water Street for a total of 8 blocks. It was laid with brick and concrete, and it's home to an array of restaurants, shops, offices, and art galleries. On Fridays, the mall buzzes with excitement for Fridays After 5. You have a concert venue of talented, attracting proportions, and smaller venues that attract some of the best up-and-coming talent or back end of their career talent in the country. City Council and City Hall have 4 critically important months before the 50-year anniversary of this mall. And in those 4 critical months, starting with September, and one of the first meetings they have in September, City Council and City Hall will have an opportunity, thanks to an executive order from President Donald Trump, to clean up these 8 blocks by approving the repossession of houseless possessions on the mall. If you camp on the mall, Charlottesville has an opportunity to take your possessions, if approved, thanks to this executive order autonomy. And I'm going to say this again, and I want to say this loud, and I'm going to catch some arrows in the chest for this, but I'm going to take the heat. I don't mind the heat. There's an institution locally, and it's called the Haven. The Haven has become an epicenter for the houseless locally. Mm-hmm. And movers and shakers tied to this entity, ladies and gentlemen, have tremendous influence over what's happening down here. And my hope is that these movers and shakers behind the Haven, my hope is that their efforts are truly philanthropic and from the heart. And my hope is that these movers and shakers with the Haven are not utilizing the houseless in a way to drive value for any asset or holding they have in downtown Charlottesville. My hope is it's philanthropic and pure. My hope is that it's coming from a good place. And I certainly don't want to hear, or I certainly hope to God it's not, you want this cleaned up, this is the number to exit. The 50-year anniversary is 4 months away. Derek Bond is watching the program. Do we have a photo for Derek Bond, a business owner that I have tremendous respect for, the owner of the Melting Pot and Moe's on Ivy Road? He says perception is the issue downtown. He says downtown is fine, but the general public perceives it as an issue. Yeah. 100% right. 100% right. Conan Owen, the owner of Sir Speedy of Central Virginia. Judah, if you have a logo and you need to scale that logo with signage, with window decals, with stickers, any kind of call to action, tangible marketing collateral like direct mail, this step and repeat banner behind me, pamphlets, trifolds, lanyards, and badges, Conan Owen and Sir Speedy of Central Virginia are who you call. He says it's far from fine. The homeless are a constant problem, and the monthly gunplay is unacceptable. Suicide this past weekend on Market Street. Did you read that?
I heard about it.
Had a conversation with my mentor this morning in his office. Both of us lamented the loss of life. And then the follow-up to that was, in a lot of ways, the suicide is way better than a murder. Someone taking their own life as opposed to someone taking someone else's life. Yeah. James Watson watching the program, his photo on screen. Where can a mom and a pop afford to rent a retail space that has parking and make a profit in Charlottesville nowadays? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm in that world. I'm in that world as a real estate owner. I'm in that world as someone that helps folks find spaces to do business within. I'm in that world as a guy that's paid an hourly wage to consult on how businesses can gain market share and improve top-line revenue. I'm in this space. They are fewer and further between affordable spaces for rent. Neither you nor I, viewers and listeners, want a world where the locally owned and operated businesses are strictly social media pages and e-commerce stores. That's not a world I want to live in. Martha Freeman, welcome to the broadcast. Print, radio, and television watching the show. Print, radio, and television, you need to be covering this in your news cycle. I'm talking about you, Daily Progress. I'm talking about you, Charlottesville Radio Group, you, Monticello Media, you, CBS 19, you, CVille Weekly, you, CVille Tomorrow. You need to be covering the 50-year anniversary for the downtown mall. It's 4 months away. It's 4 months and change away. And you need to be covering it from the angle, what is City Council and Sam Sanders of City Hall doing to make the mall in perfect form and format to celebrate a milestone anniversary? Daily Progress, NBC 29, CBS 19, CVille Tomorrow, Charlottesville Radio Group, Monticello Media, and CVille Weekly. If you're not covering that, you're not doing your job as media in this community. The 50-year anniversary is 4 months away. And you should be asking City Council and Sam Sanders to their faces, what are you going to do to take these 8 blocks that are downtrodden and depressed and make them vibrant and full of economic vitality? Judah Wickhauer, jump in. Comments coming in quickly.
Do you think they're going to have it right at the beginning of next year? I would give them an extra month or two. I would imagine that once the planning gets started, they'll try to find a time that's not, that's not
The 50-year anniversary of the downtown mall is not going to include planning that happens on the actual year of the 50-year anniversary. The 50-year anniversary planning happens well before the 50-year anniversary.
Yeah.
I don't plan for outcomes in my 2026
I'm not talking
business
about-
model in 2026.
Right. I'm saying, do you think the actual celebration will be at the very beginning of next year?
I think the celebration 50 year is going to be an extended celebration that goes much of the calendar year. Do I think this 50-year celebration is going to be in the dog days of January when credit card bills are due and it's cold and snowy outside? No. But I think once we start seeing some dandelions and some sunflowers and some pretty foliage and some spring weather, you're going to see a 50-year anniversary that's going to extend much of the 2026 calendar year. And that happens, ladies and gentlemen, right around March in these parts. Mm-hmm. John Blair watching the program, his photo on screen. Jerry Miller, I am so sorry about Alakazam, John Blair says. My wife and I always patronize them and shenanigans for toys for our own son and for birthday gifts. They will be missed. If you recall, when Tubby's closed, I said there would be 2 more major local businesses to close. I suspect you have an idea of the other major local business that is rumored to be closing soon. I hope it does not happen, but viewers and listeners should not be surprised if another landmark closes in the next few months. John, I'm hearing similar rumors. In fact, I've heard 3 very big-time names are on the brink of closing their doors.
Wow.
This comes in via Facebook message, someone asking for discretion. Our family used to frequent the mall as often as possible. For all the issues you have discussed many times, we simply do not go to the mall anymore. Our kids used to love going to the mall, but no longer enjoy it. We love strolling the streets in uptown and downtown Manhattan, but not in downtown Charlottesville. We use West Main, we use Belmont, and other places for unique dining. And while we are beyond the toy stage as parents, we certainly visit shenanigans on West Main Street instead of dealing with the trouble in downtown Charlottesville. Derek Bond says he disagrees with you, Conan Owen, but in the comment section, Derek Bond says, however, I do need your services at Moe's for the next week or so. Conan Owen, small business owner, Sir Speedy of Central Virginia. Derek Bond, small business owner, Moe's and Melting Pot. I hope you guys connect on some fantastic marketing collateral. When we're walking downtown, our kid, he's 7, and our soon-to-be 3-year-old, they don't hold our hands anymore. You know what's crazy is our 7-year-old, he's too cool for school. Won't hold our hand. Won't hold my hand. My soon-to-be 3-year-old still kind of holds my hand, but when he sees Big Brother not wanting to hold his hand, he mimics Big Brother because Big Brother's his idol. That means our soon-to-be 3-year-old, who no longer fits in the stroller, is too big for a stroller, and our 7-year-old second grader, they're running amok on the mall. And generally, running amok on the mall is fine. There's no vehicles. It's a pedestrian mall, close to traffic. Mm-hmm. But you're running amok now in an area where there's points of concern everywhere. Philip Dow, welcome to the broadcast. William McChesney, welcome to the broadcast. 50-year anniversary of downtown Charlottesville. In September, they will have an opportunity, City Council, to vote, contemplate, put into action whether this localized form of government is willing to have the balls, the courage, and the chutzpah to clean up the most important 8 blocks by taking the possessions of those who are sleeping, perhaps not illegally, but certainly unwelcomed in the heartbeat of Central Virginia.
Yeah.
And they're put into office because these are the decisions they have to make. JC on YouTube, Alakazam is great. But over the last few years when visiting our kids, it often smelled like weed in and around there. That's JC on YouTube. Dude,
Yeah.
I walk up and down the mall and
That's less of a concern for me. Now that it's legal, it's not always a questionable element that you that you catch a whiff of marijuana from. But
that's every day though.
And you also have at least two.
See, I'm torn on that. I'm torn on that because I've been on this program, and you guys know this, incredibly pro-cannabis. Incredibly pro-cannabis. In my past, prolific enjoyer of cannabis. Now, no time. Grinding constantly. Kids, life. Have to be on point. 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. when I crash. I understand the health and medical benefits.
Mm-hmm.
I understand we live in a free market and a free world where folks choose to make a living and business out of it. And I'm like, go for it. I'll love what David Trecarici is doing at Skooma Boutique Dispensary. But then there's the parent side of me. The parent side of me walking up and down the mall, and our oldest, who's very in tune with everything, extremely in touch with everything, asking me, what's that smell? It smells like skunk. What's that smell? There it is again, Dad. What's that smell? Smells like skunk. What are those guys doing passing back and forth? Get that question all the time. How do you answer that?
Good question.
How would you answer that? Dad, what are those two guys next to that really large flower pot next to Christian's Pizza smoking back and forth, passing back and forth to each other?
I'd probably use honesty, but
what was that?
I'd probably be honest about it, but
So what would you say to a 7-year-old? Just out of curiosity. How would you answer that question?
I'd say that's what marijuana smells like.
Okay. You would say to a 7-year-old, those two guys outside Christian's Pizza, son, are smoking reefer. The hippie lettuce, the chiba, the weed, the cannabis, the marijuana, the green, the shrubbery.
I'd probably
Doobie
simplify
sticks.
it for kids, but yeah, essentially.
You'd say they're smoking doobie sticks?
If
They're
you're-
burning a bowl?
Are you asking that if I would actually use
What
that
would you
word?
say to a 7-year-old? Genuinely, what would you say to a 7-year-old?
I would say they're smoking marijuana. It's
See,
a drug.
You would say they're smoking marijuana, it's a drug.
Yeah.
See, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
I said, son, they are smoking something that you shouldn't because it could potentially hurt your body and your health.
Yeah.
And then what do you think that did?
That elicited more questions.
Yeah. Hurt your body how? What exactly are they smoking? Why does it smell like that? Why do they keep tapping it? Why does sparks fall off it when they tap it? Why does it look like they can barely have anything in their fingers when they're smoking it? Why'd they throw it on the ground? And at that point, we got our calzone, our pepperoni pizza, our sausage pizza, our Coca-Colas, and said, you know what? Let's walk this way. My wife's sitting there giving me the side eye, the evil eye. I know what she was thinking. She didn't have to say it. Don't experience that at Dairy Market. Pro Renata. Vivace. Mona Lisa pasta.
I'd say there's a chance you'd encounter that anywhere with outdoor seating.
Come on. Kate Shart's watching the program, Queen of Ivy, her photo on screen. My 8-year-old, I'd say, maybe there is a skunk, we should walk faster. To my 11-year-old, I'd use an opportunity to talk about it. And there's a mom of 4 and someone I respect and trust tremendously. mom of 4, 11 and under. I know her 8-year-old. Her 8-year-old's awesome. 11-year-old's awesome too, but goodness gracious, her 8-year-old's got some vibrancy. Never met a stranger. She said, my 8-year-old, I'd say, maybe there's a skunk, we should walk faster. My 11-year-old, I'd use it as an opportunity to talk about it. I have a 7-year-old who's asking about it. A 7-year-old.
Yeah.
50-year anniversary, ladies and gentlemen, of the Downtown Mall is in 2026. We are 4 months away. To say that there is pressure and a need for priority for Juan Diego Wade, Brian Pinkston, Lloyd Snook, Natalie Oshrin, and Michael Payne is an understatement. For incoming council member Jen Fleischer is an understatement. For city manager Sam Sanders is an understatement. What is the action plan for city council and Sam Sanders to celebrate and champion a 50-year anniversary of one of the most established and longest-running downtowns, pedestrian, in the entire country? I want to know that answer.
I would say they need to set aside the funds for what they think they're going to be doing. They need to, I don't know if elect is the right word, but set up a board or what would you call it?
Action group, a committee?
Yeah, a committee that will do the actual planning. I don't think it's really within the realm of what city council should be doing to be making all the plans for this, whether it's bringing on musical artists, setting up acts, setting up all the different stuff that goes into. I mean, same kind of thing with First Night Virginia. That's not the kind of thing that the city council should be wasting a lot of time on. So I think it would. You're right. They do need to come up with an action plan sooner rather than later. But I believe most of that should be figuring out who's going to do the actual planning, figure out what kind of hierarchy you have to ensure that there's what would you call it?
Experienced boots on the streets that can execute a vision that comes from the dais and actually materializes into reality on the most important 8 blocks of the Charlottesville metropolitan area. Agree with everything that you just did. I need to emphasize this. No action plan is worth a damn if there is the perceived or actual mall in its state right now. And it starts with the houseless, it starts with the Haven, and it potentially could finish with this executive order from the Trump administration down to local jurisdictions that empowers them to clean up streets. And there's nothing wrong with offering a hand up, but these handouts at the expense of the Alakazams, these handouts at the expense of the Tool Jewelers and the Raptures, these handouts at the expense of the 10,000 villages, these handouts at the expense of the Petit Pois and the Zocolos and the banks and the local businesses that are navigating uncharted, unsafe territory of houseless and drug infestation. That time is long gone. That time should be long gone. Deep throat, number 1 in the family. My kids are the one who tell me, don't go down that alley. It's full of hypodermic needles. Wow. Kids, folks.
Thankfully,
Ginny Who says, that's a lot of synonyms for the wacky tobacco.
No doubt.
And she says it's still not legal to smoke it in public. The law simply isn't enforced. Part of the problem, this is a perfect segue into the next headline. Livable CVille and co-chairs Matthew Gillikin and Stephen Johnson are up to their old tactics again. On Nextdoor, sent to me by a viewer and listener that I trust. She says, this is over on the neighborhood app Nextdoor. Livable CVille is giving people the information on what to do with VDOT and West Main. VDOT and the city are considering design changes to the intersection of West Main, Ridge, South, and Water Street, which are obviously one of the most important intersections in the city. Livable CVille has a survey and action items of what voters and taxpayers and constituents can do to voice their opinion before city council.
So is this about the plinth?
This is about the overall look, feel, navigation of a critical entryway.
Interesting.
I'm going to say this again, and I'll take arrows in the chest for this, and I don't care about this. I'll take arrows in the chest for this. The time is long gone to pay attention to this group. This is the same group that is protesting and politicking against school resource officers in our hallways. The same group that politicked and protested against metal detectors at the entryways to our school. The same group that pushed this radical new zoning ordinance through that has yielded absolutely nothing. The same group that's infiltrating Albemarle County with its politics to drive up real estate tax rates and to encourage the boards of supervisors to tax you and me, average Joes and average Jennifers, out of more of our money to fund affordable housing. It's time to ignore these people. It's a small group that seems big. And call them out for their BS. What has come positive from what they've done? Maybe some bicycle and pedestrian safety. Certainly not housing affordability. And if someone uses the word road diet again, come on. And speaking of the lawsuit, what's up with the judge? As you put the lower third on screen. What's up with the judge, Judah?
I think give him this. I think he knows what's up. He knows whatever happens here, he's giving the plaintiffs a massive gimme.
The judge reconsiders his June 30th summary judgment. That means the city gets its wish of White versus Charlottesville being decided on its merits.
Potentially.
What happened between a missed filing deadline and this past Friday?
I think like the headline says, he's giving them a chance to to argue the case on its merits rather than have this,
So we live in a world now where high-dollar attorneys can miss filing deadlines, and then they can get grace periods from judges and second chances.
I would argue that there's no guarantee that he's going to rule in their favor at the end of this. I think he wants to hear the merits of the case. Now, obviously, that puts some of this in an odd situation, potentially problematic situation, because he's essentially saying that the plaintiffs have to bring more money into this,
He puts himself in a terrible situation. He's a city homeowner that owns a house. He puts his wife in a terrible situation, someone who doesn't use his last name on social media and through her activism for the new zoning ordinance, his wife. A new zoning ordinance activist. He puts her in a bad position. He's in a bad position. The plaintiffs are going to have to fork over more money. The city's going to have this dragged out even more. It puts the entire situation into zoning purgatory, even more uncertainty. The plaintiffs better go balls to the wall with challenging the judge with conflict of interest, keeping this in legal purgatory. This wishy-washy with the judge, terrible look. Deep Throat offers comments. He says, you want a good livable CVille story? They are fake advocates for pedestrians. They did not support a crosswalk on 2nd and Elliott. In fact, Stephen Johnson sent an email to the city staff tattletelling on Kevin Cox. That came out via FOIA.
Wow.
They are staff-adjacent bootlickers. The pedestrian stuff is a smokescreen. The only things they care about are killing zoning and the police. He says, in regards to the zoning, I think Judah is right. He thinks this case poses interesting questions. Also, think if you look at his decision, he sort of hints at the fact that the brief arguments on the merits seem to favor the plaintiffs. I think the biggest challenge for the plaintiffs is funding a full trial.
Exactly.
But no developers are going to go forward until this trial goes forward unless their projects conform to the old zoning.
Yeah.
Crazy times.
Yeah. I think what allowing the case to go forward does, despite the fact that we that we all know that the lawyers on the case, I mean, saying they dropped the ball is a massive understatement.
Massive understatement.
But the fact of the matter is, if the trial doesn't go through, there's always going to be a question surrounding the outcome. Were the plaintiffs in the right? Was the city in the right? I think by allowing this to go forward, he does not have to give equality to the two sides. In his mind, I would imagine there is a massive demerit on the side of the city and their lawyers. But I think allowing both sides to be heard I think it's a good thing. It takes away that uncertainty of who's right and who's wrong. Like Deep Throat said, it may actually give the plaintiffs an arrow or two in their quiver to continue to bargain with the city, which is what they've wanted to do. They said it themselves. I believe Van Dorn went on somewhere or other and basically said, "Look, we told the city what we want," and they basically said, "No, we don't care." I think with the actual result from this, they may have a better place to bargain with the city, because I don't think they're not trying to screw everyone over. Anyone that thinks that they're just angry old people trying to stop change from happening, I think severely is misrepresenting what's going on here.
100%. The angry, wealthy old people that are just trying to stop change from happening, that are going against popular vote, is the narrative pushed by Livable CVille. Yeah. Livable CVille is monitoring the 9 plaintiffs as nothing but wealthy, angry, bitter homeowners who lost the popular vote and are trying to find loopholes to keep change from happening. And that's not true.
Right.
What the plaintiffs are doing is utilizing the form of government that we live within and operate under.
The law.
The law. It's another, as Judah said, a gross misrepresentation from Livable CVille, who continues to be
and others.
And others, okay.
Mr. Bowie.
Jamel Bowie, the New York Times columnist. And these gross misrepresentations are far too frequent. So it keeps me from taking them at their word of this urbanist advocacy group that wants what's best for Charlottesville. That's bogus. Jason Noble saw the post on Nextdoor from the co-chair Matthew Gillikin and said that post was obnoxious, and I commented on that chain. And he said it was absolutely pathetic. Georgia Gilmer's photo on screen. In regards to livable CVille, they did tell folks on Nextdoor how to respond to the survey, and there were lemmings who thanked them. Livable CVille is the fastest way for Charlottesville to turn into Fredericksburg. I'll say that again. Livable CVille is the folks that will turn Charlottesville into Fredericksburg.
I don't know enough about Fredericksburg.
Fredericksburg, have you driven through the heart of Fredericksburg? It is a disease.
I've been there. Is it?
A disease. Ryan Hughes, thank you for watching the program. Print, radio, and television, thank you for watching the show. That's the Monday edition of the program. If you, viewer and listener, need office space of any capacity, from an entry point of about $400 a month, all the way up to $3,000 or $4,000 a month, text me, email me, DM me, call me, reach out to me. There's no one locally in Charlottesville, Albemarle, Central Virginia who has more of this office space at his disposal. $400 a month, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month, whatever your needs, we could make on your behalf. Judah Wickower, Jerry Miller, the I Love CVille show, the water cooler of content and conversation in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. So long.